Hello, it's the 11th of April 2016, and there is today a soft opening for the Asian International Infrastructure Bank. The dollar is going to go away as a worldwide trade instrument. So if we have an economic meltdown, if the dollar is no longer traded in, say, 191 of the 192 countries, what does that mean to you? Well, what did we see in the Soviet Union? And what are we now seeing in Venezuela? The biggest thing I remember about the Soviet meltdown is the people I know in Kiev, there were long bread lines. Everywhere bread lines. The bread was available. You just had to wait in long lines. It was kind of a government thing. There was plenty of food. You just had to wait in lines. I think the biggest thing we saw was panic. What happened when it happened in the Ukraine, in the Soviet Union, in Venezuela, people got laid off everywhere. Lack of jobs. Banks close and depositors lose all their deposits. So if you have $150,000 CD, it now belongs to the bank. There is no FDIC insurance. The FDIC insurance protects the people who own the bank. It's not for depositors. The infrastructure, our infrastructure in this country may break down. We're already seeing the road infrastructure break down as the leaders abscond the money and use it for their own purposes to pad their own pockets. We may see things like garbage pickup may stop during strikes because maybe they don't want to make less than, $50 an hour. Maybe, garbage pickers in Tacoma make, if you add their retirement and their medical, guy who drives a garbage truck makes over, I think it's about $140,000 a year, which means they literally take home about $50,000 of that a year as take-home pay. They may not want to go below $150,000 to pick up the trash. They're unionized. Government funding of programs may be slashed. If the dollar's not accepted, the Treasury note's not accepted. So we do one of two things. They either slash the budget or we have hyperinflation. So let me ask you this. Think about this for a minute. What happens the day after EBT cards are terminated? What if the government says, no more welfare for not doing anything? What if they say you have to get a job and work to eat? Kind of like what the Bible says. Although Social Security and physical disability is a totally different thing. What happens the day after moms who have their kids the moms who get on welfare and they have kids to get on welfare? What happens the day that their welfare is cut off? We all know dozens and dozens of them. The mom goes out, has 3 or 4 different fathers, makes $16,000 to $18,000 a month. They get a home given to them by the federal government, that kind of thing. What happens if they cut their welfare off? What happens if they say, I'm sorry, you had your thermostat up to 74 all winter, and we're paying the bill. You have to now pay your own power bill. What happens when that occurs? What do you do when it gets ugly? First, you need to pray and ask God what to do. If you're not with God, then sit down and figure it out. Or ask somebody who is with God what to do. Second, watch the video, be ready, and do what we did and our grandfathers did. Your grandfathers, your great-grandfathers, your great-grandmothers. We all did the same thing. We prepared for things like storms. There's nothing wrong with having a little extra food and water stocked up for hurricanes, winter storms, and riots. We all saw the riots at Berkeley in the 70s. I went through them. I watched them from a distance. And we all learned that if the riots shut down the grocery stores, if the riots shut down the streets, then maybe we ought to have a little extra food and water. Finally, trust in God because He has you handled. Now we're going to show you some pictures of Venezuela and the U.S. that hopefully get you motivated to get ready. To be ready. For easy reference for food and teas that help you stay healthy, look below this video for the link. And you'll see a place to order food. Liberty Foods, or Food for Liberty. It's a great company. Dave's from Montana, and he's trying to put together a company to help people prepare for what's coming. You have to know that all the proceeds from everything that is sold through my channel, we've reached a point where we can give a good portion of it to people who manufacture products that eliminate cancer. So if a mom's taking care of a child, guess what? They might get a product for a lot less. So I'll tell you one thing, it isn't going into the pockets of the manufacturers. People we recommend are usually, tiny little companies. And if we send them money, they do reduce the cost of the product. So anyway, thank you very much. We're going to show you some stories now to verify it. This is Venezuela in a grocery store. They've moved troops in. This is Venezuela. This is grocery stores. There are shortages of items. Thank God there's shortages of corn oil, because that's genetically modified. People who buy GMO foods tend to be fat. There are shortages. We've seen this in Walmart already as the dollar begins to not be used around the world. Part of the problem is there's now a complete social breakdown in Venezuela. The morgues are overflowing. The annual inflation rate is about 720%. It's going to be about 1,000%. The government subsidies are being cut. There are no more government subsidies. They're being terminated. People are going to have to pay for what it actually costs to import these foods. And they're not ready to do that. This is driven by the World Bank and the United States World Reserve. The Venezuelan dollar used to be worth 45 cents. 2009 it came down to 25 cents. And in 2013, when you know what hit the fan, it's 15 cents. It's just been lowered to 10 cents. And yet Venezuela produces 2.6 billion barrels of oil a day. And the value of their dollar is plummeting. So as it plummets, of course, inflation rises. This is what we're looking at doing in the U.S., making the dollar go from $1 to 10 cents. Venezuela, what it is like under 1,000% inflation, and Venezuela is about to find out. It goes down here and it talks about social disorder breakdown, gangs roaming the streets. You wander into Venezuela, you better be armed. Now the government has responded by asking people to plant gardens in their homes. Because food distribution, when you go from 4 million people to 40 million people, in 40 years, there just aren't any jobs. Thank you, United States. The revenues are $200 billion. Out of that, $77 billion come from oil. The expenditures are $348 billion. So they have quite a deficit, except they're not the world dollar, are they? Neither is the U.S. anymore. Value of petroleum exports, $77 billion. Value of exports, $80 billion. Venezuela only exports oil. And who do you think gets the oil money? That's right. The leaders of Venezuela get it, not the people. Now, part of the problem is this is the population, historical demographic data of the whole country, Venezuela. So in 1960 it was 7 million. 7 million to 30 million. And there just aren't enough jobs. The government has not allowed farming. It has not allowed the importation of companies. All it's done is sell oil and pad their pocket. Great socialist government. Don't tell me the United States is not involved in this. Uribe tours South America to explain U.S. bases in Colombia. The United States is in talks with the Uribe tribes and recoding U.S. drug interdiction, blah, 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 blah. So what's happening? Well, this is South America, folks. The U.S. was kicked out of Peru for trying to kill the president. The U.S. was kicked out of Ecuador for trying to kill the president. So the U.S. moves into Colombia. They're the good guys today. And they're destroying Venezuela. You got to have an enemy. So if you're in Peru, you got to hate Colombia. If you're in Ecuador, you got to hate Peru or Colombia. If you're in Colombia, you hate Panama or Venezuela. The Panamanian banks have now moved to Reno because the U.S. is here. They're screwing Panama. Although the empire is collapsing, this is Venezuela. Huge, vast amounts of land. Most of the people live right around here. Could they move out there? Yeah. Could the government build roads? Yeah. Could they build agricultural fields or make the massive amounts of water available for agriculture? Yeah. Do they? No. They pocket the money. And they don't help the people. Sounds familiar. The day the EBT card died. The EBT card died and they were running in, creating a riot to get the food, mad that they couldn't get free government money. This is a shop in Venezuela, kind of like a little Kmart. This is happening all over Venezuela. We've seen that. Mike Brown didn't exist. A man with a similar face died 9 months earlier. He was a high school football player, and the initial 911 call was, "We don't have a police officer in this area." Well, this is. I'm calling because a black man was just shot. Well, who is this? This is Channel 2 News. Well, the people who made the initial call couldn't be found. They disappeared off the face of the map, and then the CIA came in with people, specific people. You can see them in different riots. They came in and they started riots. Now, if the black people will riot over someone who died that didn't exist, what do you think they're going to do when their EBT cards are cut off? Ferguson, Missouri. A fake person died. Look at them. What do you think is going to happen when welfare gets cut off? Our food they think that they're not going to be known. Their iris pattern is read at 500 yards. Their fingerprints are read at 50 yards. So they have already been identified. Gee, looks a lot like the same guy who was protesting at the last riot, right? Now, these people are paid by George Soros through Hillary Clinton to create riots at the Trump, because Trump never bent over and took it up the rear and was initiated. Sorry, I hate to get so graphic. But if these people will do this for money, if they'll actually get thrown in jail and get a criminal record for money, for being paid by George Soros through Hillary Clinton, what do you think they're going to do when their welfare gets cut off? I mean, it's going to get ugly, folks. So we have our food coming in a truck. And who do you think's behind it? The U.S. State Department? Organized? Yeah, remember, this is the fat John Kerry with the evil eyes. The original one was shot and killed. The evil one had a Frank Burns chin, like Frank Burns from MASH. It's the State Department. First Hillary, now him. They get government grants for people like George Soros, who then give it to Hillary, who funnels it through her little murdering network and has riots against people like Donald Trump who've never been initiated. And this man, he wasn't even a citizen until 16 months ago. So Joe Biden allowed him to be a U.S. senator, and he's not even a frickin' citizen running for president? Yeah, these people do illegal things all the time. But what you have to worry about, what you need to think about, trust in God and help your family. Do what you can do now. Below this video, you can buy food. On the video, be ready. There's a place to buy food. You need to stock up. You need to be ready. And then if these things happen like this, where they block the roads, you don't have to worry about it. You just sit back, you go to work, you come home, the food comes by FedEx or UPS or however you order it. The food comes in the mail. It may be a few days late because they may have to reroute themselves around this, but I promise you the delivery companies will continue to be. They make money. They don't care about the CIA sponsoring this. They don't care about Hillary and George Soros. They got deliveries to make. They don't make deliveries, they don't make money. So, we buy Immucyst, we buy Citricare, we buy the food, and we buy the tea to help process all of this. And it all comes by mail, and we don't have to worry about some fake person being shot. We don't have to worry about this, which happened in the blizzard in New York. I think they were advertising on, what's that? Craigslist. They were advertising bread for $80 a loaf. We don't have to worry about this. We come home, and that's it. Folks, thank you. That's what happens in an economic meltdown. It ain't pretty. But believe me, the United States has its fingers all over this. And I encourage you to start a little garden. We may do a video on that. Coming to you live, Dr. William B. Mount. Thank you. God bless you. Pray for the country. And have a nice day.